Dudes, what's up? How's it going? What's happening? I'm just fixing up my tea here. It's about 9 p.m. in Munich. Had a little problem with my computer because it wouldn't be Sunday Live without a technical issue. But luckily, I was able to sort of do a workaround. Anybody ever have, like, I've got an M1 Mac laptop that's already getting obsolete, I guess. But I got the blinking orange light on the charger. You ever get that, where it just won't charge? So luckily I have a 65 watt, like, high power, is it lightning, I guess, charger? Is that what it's called? USB-C style, because you can now charge Macs from that too. It's just a little slower, but actually it's pretty damn fast, I have to say. I've never used this one. It's a Euro charger. It's up to 11%, and it's been plugged in for maybe 15 minutes. Not bad for like a little charger, and that works. But the other one wouldn't work for me, my regular computer charger, because it's always something. I've had a lot of issues with recent Mac laptops and the MagSafe charge thing not working. I had my last laptop. Actually, was it this one or my last one? I had one that was just totally defective, and they ended up replacing the whole computer, I think, where it just wouldn't, like, after like a month of having the computer, it just wouldn't charge to the port anymore. So I ended up getting a whole new one, and now I'm having this issue with this one. So anyway, I just wonder if anybody's ever had those issues with it. Braxall says, I thought you got a new Mac Studio. Well, yeah, but I don't have it in a hotel room on the road. I don't carry it around with a monitor. I gotta have I gotta have two Macs. I gotta have a laptop and a studio computer. I don't have to. I could use a laptop everywhere, but the problem is the laptops are the ones that always seem to screw up for me. So this is an M1 that I've had for I think I've got about 4 years now, something like that. And I mean, it's fine. The computer works fine. It's been fine. I've done some editing and used it on the road. I just don't use it that much. And then the battery, part of the problem is maybe the battery runs all the way down, and then the thing is really out of juice. And then this, I think, seems to occur. But now it's even at charged up to 10%. I'm still getting the blinking thing. I don't know. Andy Rexicam says he avoids Apple like the plague. I mean, I've just never used anything else, so, and I'm not at this point going to switch to be a PC person or something like that. So I'm in there, unfortunately, their grips, and I just got to make it work. But luckily, there's this workaround. It's nice you can charge the computers from something other than the MagSafe port. That's good, I guess. I should be thankful for that, because that didn't used to be the case. So. Anyway, all right. So I'm in Munich, and it's the end of the tour, man. It's sad today. So I said bye to the other guys, and they all went, their ways. I watched Joe and Steve walk off, and I thought, there they go. Oh, and end of this run anyway. So we'll see what happens from here on out. But love those guys. What a time we had. It was so much fun. Last 2 days of the tour, we were in Croatia, in this beautiful place by the seaside, and we stayed by the sea, and was able to go swimming every day, and it was just like a vacation, except we were gigging. The gigs themselves were in a beautiful place called St. Michael's Fortress, old theater, kind of in the side of a mountain, that the crowd, I guess, looking out, if the sun hasn't gone down yet, you can see the ocean and stuff behind the venue. It's very beautiful. Something else, really gorgeous. I put up a picture on my Instagram, maybe you saw, from the kind of the backstage area, looking over the sea as well. It was gorgeous, man. Dream come true. Crazy stuff. The wind kicked up last night. We do in the set, we do a couple of newer tunes, a couple of SatchVai tunes. So starting with I Want to Play My Guitar, and then the second song is Sea of Emotion Part 1. And then we go into a couple of Steve's tunes, and we do Zeus and Chains and Little Pretty. That was kind of the tunes that we were doing for the whole tour for the first 4. And then we go into a mashup called Ice Machine that was a combination of Ice 9 and The Crying Machine. So Ice Machine. It's kind of funny because we had another version of it too, where it was the order of the songs were kind of reversed, and we called that Machine Ice, which would also work. But we ended up going with the Ice Machine arrangement. And anyways, Joe introduced the song. We go into it, and if you know Ice Nine, you know, that's the whole intro. That happens 4 times. Halfway through that intro, like by the second time through, there was this gale force wind kicking up. I mean, there was no wind at the top of the song. Halfway through the intro, there's this like felt like somebody turned on like a industrial fan on the side of the stage. And by the end of the intro, it was just absolutely, your hair's like, you know, like, I mean, it was like, what is happening? Steve said he almost got blown over. And for a couple tunes there, it was like, man, is there like a severe storm moving in? It never rained. It rained after the show, but I was ready for just sideways rain to just come straight across the stage at any second, and it didn't. It was just this wind, and so it was kind of crazy, and it was sort of fun to play through. The PA was like, you know, it's a little gnarly for a minute, but everything was fine. You know, they determined it's safe and everything, and we did it, and the weather kind of calmed down after a little while, but it was sort of windy for the whole rest of the gig. It made it kind of fun, actually. So that was the last 2 shows, just brilliant, good times. So I'm on my way back to LA tomorrow. On your signature model with the Floyd, is it set up to dive only, or do you use a trem stabilizer? So it's got a trem stabilizer, and you can choose to use it or not if you were to get one. I'm using it. I may not. You know, at some point I may decide I want to be able to pull up on the tremolo. Just haven't been. Since I got that guitar, it's had the stabilizer. I've had it sort of set up Eddie Van Halen style, so I could use the detuner. But it's you're saying I saw where Vi has trem stabilizers on all his gems. Yeah, I don't know about that. That's a good question, actually. If he's using them, I mean, I think he's got the bars so he can pull up. Maybe he uses a trem setter or something, one of those different ones that kind of works to block the bridge, but then the bridge works when you pull up on it. I'm not really sure about that. So that's a good question. He definitely uses the tremolo both ways, you know, goes up and down. So, but I just use the one that, you know, screws in the back by the kind of, so it hits up against the trem block, and then you can back it off if you want to. Use it or don't use it, you know. Got my tickets for the Classic Rock show in North Wales in January. Yeah, I don't think we've ever played there. Kind of a cool place to play. Pete Martin says, well, we'll see you there. We'll see you there, man. There's Ben Coon says, don't forget to hit the likes. Thanks, Ben. I want to build a pedal board around a small modeler like the HX Stomp or Tonex with other effects pedals controlled by MIDI. Okay. Which modeler works best with MIDI switching? I mean, they all work pretty great. The Quad Cortex has definitely got full MIDI implementation. I've done a little bit of Axe-Fx stuff with MIDI. I mean, they all work, you know. MIDI's so sort of like 1980s technology. I mean, I think just about anything works okay with it, you know. So I would be more concerned about all the other stuff, like the sounds and the features that you're going for. Don't worry about the MIDI stuff. Tonex, I mean, okay, other effects pedals controlled by MIDI. Okay, so if I see. So maybe you're wanting to use the Stomp or Tonex as a controller, then, is what you're saying. I'm not, maybe if I'm reading a little deeper into this, in which case I would say, like an HX Stomp is, I don't know exactly if you can send out different MIDI messages on different channels. That's a really good question. But in that regard, like as far as receiving MIDI, any of them are fine. Sending out MIDI and using them as a controller, that gets into a whole nother thing. I would probably want something a little more full featured. I've done MIDI stuff with a Helix HHS effects where I could send out different MIDI messages. It was full featured enough. I don't know about the Stomp. You're gonna have to reference manual for that and just see. But you know, there's only like 3 buttons on a Stomp. It's like, I just feel like if I was switching other pedals, I feel like I'm going to be limited in that scenario. So I would probably go for a more full featured, like a full helix, or, you know, like something's got a little bit more going on as far as when it comes to being a full-fledged switcher. Like, I don't think I would want to use an HX Stomp to be my control. I would probably have an HX Stomp and then have a separate MIDI controller on the pedal board that just did simple MIDI that was sending out stuff to all the pedals, you know, that was controlling the stomp and everything else. This is me. I don't like having only just like a preset up, preset down, or, you know, bank up, and to, you know, I know you can configure an HX Stomp to do different things. You can make the switches do different things. Maybe if you don't, they make an external, if you guys know, put this in the chat. They might make an external switch for an HX Stomp. It's like 2 more buttons where you could do bank up, bank down, and then the 3 buttons could be presets, in which case maybe it's okay. What you want to find out is whether or not you can send, like whether or not you can assign devices on different MIDI channels out of the HX Stomp. I'm just not sure about that. Like, could you say you had a Mobius and a H90 and you wanted to, you know, send them both messages, right? Do they, if the HX Stomp, I'm not saying it does this, I'm not sure, but if it only does simple program change and it'll just, you know, program 1, program 2, program 3, then what's going to happen is it's going to make those units go to program 1, program 2, program 3, and you're going to have to store your sounds, your presets or whatever in those. Like, you're not going to be able to tell them to do different things per preset. It's just, you know, but I bet it's a little more full featured than that, where you could assign a MIDI channel to the HX or to the Mobius. I'm using them as an example, hypothetical. The Mobius and the H90, separate MIDI channels, and tell them to do different things. Probably, you know, but I'm just not sure because the Stomp is such a simple unit. So that's why I say I might want a more full featured, like a Helix that just does a little bit more stuff. Size is all the rage these days. I know I'm doing a tour in a couple of weeks where it looks like we're in a backline most everything. So it's like, what am I taking? You know, I think I'll probably end up taking a guitar and the quad Cortex, I think, and then everything else I'll backline, which I'm kind of fine with in a way. It's like, well, I'll get a Taylor acoustic, I'll backline a rental Strat, and I'll bring my, this is for Five for Fighting, I'll bring my main Five for Fighting guitar, which has been a really nice PTHH, the one with the sort of ocean turquoise top on it that I've been playing with Five for Fighting for the last little while. I'll just bring that guitar, you know, I'll bring one suitcase, I'll bring that guitar, my backpack, you know, the quad Cortex probably in a laptop bag because I've been doing that lately. Literally a laptop bag works fine. I'll show you the bag that I carried in. Got it right here. I mean, it's not the sturdiest thing in the world, but I bought this old laptop bag for probably like, you know, $50 like 25 years ago when I got my first PC laptop. I said I never had PCs, but I did for a minute back in the day. I hated that thing. Got rid of it. Got it. But, you know, it's just like this, right? Like the quad's literally like in there with a guitar cable. You know, I got the screen protector on it and stuff, but, you know, that's it. I'll bring this and maybe a, you know, another backpack with a loom and cables and stuff like that. And then if I can backline everything else, I just will, I guess. Backline a Marshall cabinet or something, and a guitar power amp of some sort so that I can power the Marshall cabinet, have some sound on stage. And then I'll bring my PTHH and backline a rental electric and an acoustic guitar, and that'll be it, you know. For the last tour I played acoustic on a little bit of stuff, and I used a Carl Martin acoustic gig, it's called, I think. It's like a copper colored long thing that has you know, a couple stomps on it for different stuff like compression, boost, EQ, and it's got a simple XLR DI out on it and a simple tuner built in. And I used that, and that worked really good actually for my acoustic with Five for Fighting. So got a reverb built in. So I'll probably just bring that and use that for acoustic. There's a super chat there. Let's light it up. Let me find the bunch of comments here. I'll scroll through in a minute. Congrats, Pete, on the SatchVai tour experience. Have you seen my reggae vibe with Steve from Vi Academy? It's called Grateful Reggae. I haven't, Norman. I should check that out. Isn't Steve a lovely guy? He's a wonderful cat. Just awesome. Steven says, I like the Sustainiac pickups. Thanks for that that super chat there, Norman. I appreciate that. Thanks, man. I was asking Joe about Sustainiac pickups the other day because, I've never tried one. I've never tried a guitar with a Sustainiac in it and kind of want one. He said, oh, you better be careful. You might get addicted. They can take you down. But I love the way those guys use them. I almost don't know they're using it. It's like they're both so good at it. The way they use it, it's almost seamless. Like you can't tell if it's natural feedback or what's going on. I don't know, what's happening, which goes for a lot of the things that Steve and Joe do. I mean, a lot of the licks they're playing and stuff where they're using different pedals and things. It's so seamless that you can't, the way Steve uses wah and also the whammy and stuff is, and he incorporates it into things kind of on the fly during the middle of improvising. It's pretty great. Let's see here. Saw you on your last round of firefighting. Didn't you have a pedal after the HX Stomp for the Queen sound? No, it wasn't an HX Stomp. So it was the Quad Cortex, and I used a real treble booster into the Quad Cortex to actually boost a sound for the Queen song. I'm not even sure we're doing that song though, so I might not need it. Rig sounded great. Thanks. Yeah, I thought it did too. Basically, that's what I'll use again. It's just I probably won't have my little Sir 112s out. I'll just rent a Marshall cabinet and use that instead. It's only for onstage sound. We're not miking it or anything. All the sound in the PA is coming from the IRs, so that are coming out of the Quad Cortex. So I'll just stick with that and do that and rent it's all down to cost and stuff, and it's where we're starting the tour. And because we're starting the tour kind of in the middle of the country, I believe it's in Ohio is where we start. Because of that, it costs a lot of money to truck gear out from LA. So it'd be easier to rent gear out of a place like Nashville because it's so close to where we're starting. We're only doing maybe 8 shows, something like that. So just easier than trucking it there and back. So that's the factor. And yeah, so I probably won't have the treble booster. I could bring one. I could bring one and just, throw it on the ground or whatever and kick it on if we're going to do that tune. But I don't even know if we're doing that tune. We would probably mix it up on this tour. We haven't not totally set in stone on exactly what we're playing yet. It's still a couple weeks out. So, yeah. So are you on the way home or to another gig? I'm on my way home right now. Yeah, I'm headed back to LA. Yeah, I'll go in the morning. Yep. Can you review Woo's new Silvertech pedal MG85? Looks awesome. There's so many different versions of that pedal. Is it the Marshally one? Yeah, I mean, I probably will. He's amazing. I mean, the stuff that guy does is amazing. But to be honest, I'll just tell you honestly, like my honest opinion is he's made too many versions of the same pedal. And it gets confusing to me. And I feel like I keep making the same video over and over again. Just being honest, And I feel like with all the little switches and everything, it's incredible what he's done and how he's packed it all into a thing. And his desire to make the best sounding sort of Marshall in a box. For those that don't know, the Silvertech, it's a pedal that's made in China, and a guy that's very passionate about putting a Marshall in a box. He's very good at it. And it does a million different things. But although I have the hardest time, I mean, I have a thing where I just can't see that close up, and I have to pull my contact over to the side and actually get the pedal right up to my buggered up eyes where I can read what the little switches are supposed to do and stuff like that. I was telling him, I'm like, man, you need to, like, it needs to be in a format that's much more like something like the IRX or something. You know what I mean? Not in that little tiny pedal where it's really hard to see things and stuff like that. That's my opinion. So I feel like telling him that, like almost helping him with the design, just from the aspect of like, he keeps refining that same little box. It's the size of a Phase 90, right? It's like so tiny, but it's a full-fledged amp in a box. It's crazy. Like, I mean, it's a preamp Marshall style. Marshall in a box with a full tone stack and all these different switching options to take it anywhere from kind of JTM 45 to a modern, more modded thing. Yeah. So I've done probably 4 or 5 different versions of it, and I just feel like it's enough. Like there's I don't know. And the other thing he does that he makes that are awesome are the boosts. But I feel like I don't like the funniest thing happened. He sent me a couple of boost pedals from Marshalls that are supposed to boost the front end of a Marshall. And one is, I got them mixed up one day. And now I don't remember because they look so damn similar. I'm not sure which one is which. So I have to ask him because they literally look the same. One's a little bit darker gray than the other one. And one he made about it. They were made about a year apart. And I have a lot of pedals around and stuff. And I'm an airhead anyway. So, you know, I got them mixed up. And I mentioned it to Richard Fortis. And Richard uses one of them in his rig as a boost, and I for Guns N' Roses, you know, uses it. And I said, dude, I'm kind of embarrassed, but I mixed up these CKK, because it's his other company, CKK boosts, and I don't know which one's which anymore. He goes, dude, I did the same thing. He's like, I'm not sure, because he sent them to Richard too. And Richard loves them and thinks they sound great. And they do sound great. They both sound really good, but there's one that sounds slightly better to me. And I'm not sure whether it's the one he made a year ago or the one he made a year later. And they both look almost identical. And there's not a lot of nomenclature on them. So we're guitar players. We're dummies. So super chat there. I'll grab that in just a second. That's Chris. Can you talk about some different options for getting vintage analog synth sounds with a guitar? I've been using the Quad Cortex on this tour. I'm actually doing that. I'm playing some very keyboardy analog sort of pad stuff. Quad Cortex has some great stuff. If you look at some of the things that Rabia has done with it, he's got some cool synthy things. And there's just some cool factory presets and stuff where you can start from. And it's not even necessarily like, I think there's a synth effect in there, but it's not even necessarily using that. There's other ways to get there using pitch shifters and all kinds of things. And then there's also sort of like the POG, you know, that you can use to kind of do low octave shifted synthy things. There's Boss pedals like the SY1 and both synthy pedal. There's a more sophisticated Boss ones that are, you know, more full on like guitar synth pedals. Like in other words, there's ones that are the size of a typical small Boss pedal. That's the SY1, I think it's called. I think that's what it's called. Yeah. But I'm using the Quad Cortex, I think, to pretty good effect on this tour. I've got some sounds that when I hear them on the cell phone videos and stuff that I've seen, I'm like, that's cool. I'm not really missing the keyboards, you know? So Joe has a song called Sahara that if you watch the online stuff, I'm playing synth pad stuff at the beginning and with slow attack and fading in. And then in the kind of the bridge in the middle, there's a couple parts, I guess, that could be construed as a bridge. It's really the bridge, I guess, of the song though. I'm playing a synth part using a polyphonic pitch shifter to kind of get all the different. It's like a 3-part. Sort of just sounds like a you know, root, third, fifth sort of triads moving up the neck on a synth. And but I'm doing it by only playing one note at a time and using a polyphonic pitch shifter to get the different intervals. Yep. Grab that super chat right away. Did Steve open you up to the stuff on the Axe effects? I mean, we haven't really talked about it, but his sounds are amazing that he gets out of there. You know, he's got his tech, Doug, who's really brilliant. There was just a rig rundown if you'd like to watch it with Doug. Everybody was commenting on how much Doug plays like Steve, and he really can. He's really an aficionado of Steve's playing, and which really works well because, of course, then he can, you know, set up the rig and tweak things, and it's almost, you know, very similar to Steve playing. So very cool. But anyway, yeah. What else we got here? Okay, I'm gonna go down and get a couple of those super chats there. One from Andy. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. Thank you. Another one just showed up there. Talking about forgetting about where you sold off gear and bought random gear. Do you remember Squid Music in Garden Grove? I don't think I was ever there. There's a lot of cities in Southern California, like for instance, Garden Grove, Orange, like the city of Orange, that I've never really been to. It's like you can live somewhere for so long and then never really, you know what I mean? Like find yourself in a new place. I mean, I think I've been to like downtown Fullerton maybe like 2 times in like 30 years. Crazy. So a lot of places I never made it to. I'm thinking about turning my SSS Strat into HSS. Have an American Pro 2 with original V-Mod 2 pickups. Do you think the Thornbucker pickups would be a good balance? Yeah, I mean, the Thornbucker is a great balance with single coils because they're just not that hot. So, you know, get a Thornbucker Plus and pop in the bridge and then some nice singles that are mid 6K, and that always works for me, I think. Yeah, I think so. Okay, what else have we got? Let's see. Do you have any practical joke stories on the road? No, not really. A lot of funny stuff that happened, but I don't know if I can talk about it. MXR bass synth. Oh yeah, that pedal looks really cool. I saw man, whoever the bass player is that did a review for that pedal that helped design it. What a great demo video he made for it. Go listen to that, and then you'll see maybe that is a good pedal to get for guitar. Yeah. All right. I'm a sucker for a killer Les Paul tone and Strat tone. I think combining the single coils on an SSH and SS as an SSH on an SG. That's interesting. The new Les Paul Music City models. What are those? What's that look like? Let me take a look. Is that like the Sonex looking one with the V headstock? Yeah, looks like a Sonex or a Marauder or something. I agree, they're kind of cool. Somebody was commenting in a review that they didn't know why they didn't just call it a Marauder or a Sonex. Like they almost should have. Instead of it, it's not really a Les Paul, is it? It's like a different thing. I guess maybe there was a decision, oh, well, those guitars didn't do that great back in the day, so we better just call it a Les Paul and hope nobody notices. It's called Music City Special, isn't it? I mean, yeah, I think they should have called it something else. The Sonex or the Marauder. Just roll with it, man. Don't be afraid. How are Americans treated over there? And is Croatia the most beautiful country? Safe travels. To be honest, I didn't notice any. There's a lot of, you know, like there is in the world today, just kind of like a lot of news on the internet and on the news and things that might make you think like, oh, it's, you know, like whatever, you know. There's a, you know, backlash against, you know, people or whatever. And I don't really experience that, to be honest. Just, you know, it's my experience. I haven't had anybody like diss me or, you know. My advice as, you know, traveling as a person that, you know, has very limited language skills. I mean, speak more Japanese now than anything else. But, you know, if you're in Europe, a little bit of French goes a long way. If you're in France, you know, just a little polite, you know, and also just, you know, to be honest, I mean, it's something, you know, it's just how Americans are, but it's part of, you know, the way they are. But sometimes they can just be so damn loud, you know, in places. And there's people from other places like that too. You know, certain, you know, you'll notice people from other parts of the world that can be like that too. But not everybody's like that, you know. And it's important to kind of be aware of your surroundings when you're in certain environments, and maybe don't be like so, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, it's cool. There's a fine line between being yourself and freedom and whatnot, and then recognizing that you're not in your own country anymore and stuff, and to be just kind of like, I don't know, there's a humility and also a humbleness and a respect to, you know, making sure that you're not the loudest person in the room or whatever. And I just hear that sometimes, and it bothers me when I'm there. You know what I mean? When I hear people kind of, you know what I'm talking about, and you know, just being respectful and whatnot, and you know, ask, please and thank you, and respectful stuff in other languages. Man, does it ever go far? That's always my recommendation. It's just, you know, showing that you're a respectful person, that you care a little bit to learn just the basics about you know, how to say excuse me or I'm sorry or thank you or, you know, all those things. And it really goes a long way. If you do that, you really don't run into problems. That's what I found. I mean, it's my advice. You know, if you ask for things in a foreign country loudly, you know, and kind of with an attitude or whatever, only in English, might get a pushback like right away. If you're in Germany, if you're in France, especially, you know, they might not like that very much. Probably pretty much guarantee France, you know, they're not going to dig it, you know. because they're proud of their country and they're proud of their language. And it's a little insulting to assume that other people would just know what you're saying. Now, that said, it is really interesting when you're in Croatia and different countries in Eastern Europe, how English is still the de facto standard, really. Like that struck me, like people from in Croatia, German's not necessarily spoken, or I mean, a little bit, you hear it, but it's like, I think that the default is still English for, international. And I guess I found that in Japan too. If there's Russians in Japan, or if there's like whatever, people go there, they're going to go to English to be able to communicate as a, sort of a world language. That's still the case, So, yeah. But anyway, just common sense, kind of polite stuff, and then you don't really have problems. You might run into a jerk every 3 weeks or something like that. Doug is the greatest of all time. Doug is really something. He's a really bright guy. We're talking about SatchVai's tech here. Really bright, really dedicated, does a great job, super detail oriented. And he's a great luthier too. Like he's really, he can work on guitars like crazy. He's quite young. I don't know. He's a interesting cat, talented. Just picked up for $100 cable, no shock mount, used condenser microphone, AT4033A. Good microphone, $100, great deal. They're a definitely a quality microphone for that dough. Nice condenser mic. I like Audio-Technica. Gonna try and get another Bassman this week, 70 or 71 for $600. That's cool. Great amp, good mod platform. You can do all kinds of things to them. They're relatively simple. Yep. What else? There's a super chat coming in, as well as thanks for the super chats this week, you guys. We got 210 people in line. That's nice. We get back to it here. Back to doing the live streams. I love using my PT15 IR with a Synergy Syn 1. That's cool. Nice way to go. I have a B-Man and Z-Rec module. Z-Rec is cool, right? I love that one. What high gain modules would complement the modded Marshall gain? I would recommend probably if you want something different, like a real different flavor, I really liked the Engel Savage. Not one that you might think, but that was one that I noticed was very different, that it had this big grindy kind of metal modern thing going on that was pretty cool. So, I'd have to go back through the other ones and try again. I should probably do that at some point and listen to them and see because it's been a minute. But I just remember the Engel being a standout, as being like, oh, that's different and cool to have around, But you got a whole plethora there now of the 5150 style one. Is that PV 6160, I think. Recto, of course, different ones, the Uberschall Mark IIc, Mark IIc Plus. That's cool. Just depends what you want, It's kind of, you can look at those different amps and kind of almost guess like what, some of them are more Marshall-y, and they're going to be more, like I would say a lot of the Friedman ones, the BBBE is really nice because it'll get you that, super Fendery, super modern Marshall thing in one module. I think that's a good one to have. But that said, that the amp kind of does that already. So yeah, if you wanted a high gain, different voice, I bet you'd be probably happy with the Engel, the Soldano, the 5150 variant that I think is the 6160. Go that route, I would say. Okay, just for kicks here, my computer's charged up to 31%. I'm going to plug in the MagSafe connector and just see if it lights up now, or if I need to take my computer in to get looked at. Yeah, it's blinking. It ain't working. Looks like a trip to the Apple Store for me and this laptop when I get back. That's fine. Whatever. At least the other one works. Like I say, I'm charging off a 65 volt Anchor right now, which is tiny. It's just like this little thing, and 65 volt, is that right? So 65 watt or 60, I don't know what it is. Anyways, not 65 volt, 65 something. Anybody out there have experience with the SY200? Is that the Boss synth? I think I did something with it. I might have used it in a video for. Is that the what I used in that video for the guitar from Ireland? I used a synth guitar, and I got a Boss synth for the video, and I think it was that one. So you might check that out on my channel. You could probably find it. Search Pete Thorn synth guitar Boss Ireland. See what pops up. Jim's Music in Tustin. Don't think I ever made it there either. I don't think so. I mean, Tustin, almost never. No, LA is just like that, ain't it? What else we got here? My cousin goes to Croatia a lot. He had a fish stew that tasted of murky river water. Ooh, Croatia's pretty damn nice, man. It's the place is, coming up fast, I would say. I was just staying in a nice resort there for 3 days, and it was pretty good. Everything was pretty solid. The food, the service, not too expensive, not too cheap. Was like pretty reasonable. I felt like for what I was getting. Yeah, what's not to like? I don't know. It was pretty good. Great show in Serbia, in Belgrade, says Nicola. Thanks. Hope you had a nice time. I did. Yeah. Serbia was cool too. Quite liked it there. That was an interesting gig. It was like out kind of, that venue was interesting, but it was cool. It ended up working out good. And I had a nice time there in Belgrade. Walked around, had some fun, found myself in some interesting spots. Went to the Queen's Pub or something, and they were playing Great Rolling Stones all night. That was kind of nice. Sat there and drank a beer and enjoyed listening to the Stones. And then it was pouring rain, and I caught a cab back to my hotel. That's that exciting story. It's cool how music can bring people together. Absolutely. It's like one of the greatest things about it. I agree. My knees hurt says, general rule to live by is don't be a dick. Yeah, don't be a dick. Be respectful. Stand above things and look down upon them and realize where you are and what the environment is. And always be respectful of people in the host country. Yeah, in fact, always be respectful to everyone. Yeah, treat others as you'd want to be treated. And I mean, when people come to the U.S., they don't demand anything less of visitors. That's for sure. So, you know what I mean? That's what you want to do when you go other places. Do you have a big family? Big family. I don't really have a big family. Oh, you're talking to Mark. You guys are talking amongst yourself. I have a medium small size family. Any plans with SatchVai in the future? Well, we'll see what comes around the horizon. Nothing announced yet, but we will see. We will see. We will see. Just been nothing talked about in the public specter yet, so I keep my lips sealed. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. I saw that both Svai and Saturn are using third power cabs. That's true. What are your thoughts on those cabs? They sound good on stage. I didn't even realize Steve's were the third power until we were pretty well into the tour. I guess, they're interesting because I think they're divided into fours, and then they've got like one is open, I think. Something like that. Like one speaker. So they look like a typical 412, but they're really not. But they sounded good on stage, every night. I had in-ears in, so it's like, and I pretty much had in-ears in from the beginning, except in the first rehearsals that we did. So once you put those things in, you don't really get a sense. But I'll just say that both Joe and Steve's rigs sound pretty different, both good and different. So I'm not sure if they're using, I think Steve's are all V30s and Joe's are a combination of 75s and some other 90 watt speaker that I'm not sure. And then I was, of course, using greenbacks like I always do. My cabs have greenbacks and V30s, but I mic the greenbacks. So, and it all worked. I feel like, Different sounds worked well. Out of the Sir single coils, which you would recommend for the Clapton, Mayer, Eric Johnson SRV tone? Well, SRV is the more saucy mid, I think. I mean, some people have this theory that his pickups weren't that hot. So it's hard to say, but whenever we think of him, we always think of mid-range, but maybe that was the Tube Screamer. So it's hard to say, I like the V63s and I like the V60 LP. Those are the two that I've used the most. V60 LP and the V63, which used to be called the Landau Classic, I think. The one that differs the most is the V70, I think, and it's the lower power. It's going to be brighter, spankier, real clicky in between. More like maybe the John Mayer. I'm not sure how hot Mayer's pickups are. That's a good question. Really good question. But when you say all those different guys, they've all got very different sounds to me. So I've never had a problem with V63s. I think they sound really good. You know what I started doing a lot was using the middle pickup on my HSS. My main guitar on this run was my HSS standard. I used the HSS custom with the Floyd on the encore last couple tunes, or sometimes it was 3 songs. My 7-string, of course, but the body of the set was played on the HSS standard and played just about every song on that guitar, other than the ones where I definitely needed another guitar for, the 7-string or something, or acoustics. And my HSS standard, my good old garnet red one that I've been playing for a few years, was just stellar. It was great. Awesome. So, and it's got V63s. So like, if you watch me play the song Little Pretty with Steve, I'm using the middle pickup it's either middle or the bridge pickup for the last verse and chorus, where I'm just on the bridge humbucker. But most of the tune, I'm on the middle position. I love that pickup. Sounds great. Really cool, actually. So he uses a really different sound on that too, because he's playing like it's old John Scofield, I think. Ibanez, the 335 style, basically, semi-hollow. Pretty cool. After the sad passing of Ozzy, just wondering if you have any favorite Ozzy or Sabbath tracks. I mean, I love. It's weird because I grew up with Ozzy more than Sabbath, so it's not. I don't actually go back and listen to a lot of old Sabbath all the time, but it's like I like Sweetleaf. I like what is it? Symptom of the Universe, Children of the Grave. But Ozzy tracks I love. I mean, probably my favorite is Diary of a Madman because it's just so musically like interesting, and obviously Randy was pushing him at that point. I think that song, nothing sounds like that, I mean, other than I think Randy kind of appropriated some classical stuff, but in hard rock, nothing sounded like that. And it was certainly like unique, at the time, and still nothing sounded like that after. And that was Randy's brilliance. It's sad that, we lost him when we did, because he was doing some really interesting stuff. So Diary of Madman, I love that track. That comes to mind. I love Flying High Again. I love I Don't Know, because it's just ballsy and cool. Nothing sounded like that, it just sounded completely unique. And I guess, of course Sabbath did too, Changes is of course beautiful. That Youngblood version of Changes was amazing at the, and that sort of signifies the significance of Sabbath, as a metal band, but they could do that too, which was really awesome. So They somehow did that without sounding bloated or, you know, like fuddy-duddy or something. Yeah. Oh, and but I should say too, and it's not sacrilege to talk about, but I love the Dio era as well. You know, of I mean, Mob Rules and that's just badass sounding to me. You know, Heaven and Hell is like unbelievable to me. That stuff was super cool too. So I like that era too. I know we haven't been talking about that much because of you know, obviously Ozzy's passing. It's his time to talk about him, but I do love that era of Sabbath actually. So I feel like he injected a life into it that was really, you know, it was just like a different band. So it's almost like Audio Slave and Rage Against the Machine or something. It just became a different group with a different singer, but everybody else the same. Thanks for the super chat. Some of the rudest people I ever met were in Dublin. Americans in Dublin. Well, they were probably drunk. You know, they're probably in Temple Bar and going crazy, right? As people do. Yeah. Okay, what else we got here? I hear the food's really good in Europe. Well, not everywhere, but you know, it's an acquired taste in some spots. Some spots it's kind of universally great. I love Netherlands and actually Denmark for food. There's some amazing restaurants there, but I mean, it's kind of high end. You know, you gotta go and spend some money. You know, but it's really really good. But there's great, you know, there's great Indian food in England now. England, you can kind of get good food in a lot. You know, they always people used to take the piss out of England for, you know, their culinary deficiencies. But now there's great restaurants. There's great Thai food. There's great Indian food. Get great sushi. You can get great everything. You know, pretty high quality. France, of course, there's amazing food. Italy, holy hell, you know, can't go wrong there. But I like Denmark and Netherlands for kind of modern, you know, find the cool restaurant in town that's got some guy that's foraging, you know, stuff out of his own garden and then incorporating it into, you know, local dishes. What else we got here? Let's see. I recently picked up a new Engel 20-watt Steve Morse. It's phenomenal. That's cool. Awesome. What else we got here? Let's see here. Hello from Northern Alberta. If you like thick smoke, yeah, the fires, man. It's rough. It's rough every year now, right? Isn't it? It's just gonna be every year now. It's terrible. Bummer. Have you tried the AMT amp pre's? I haven't. I haven't tried those, but I know what you're talking about. Okay, I'm gonna move down through the chat a little bit. Can you talk a little bit of quad Cortex versus FM9? Coming over the world of Helix, but I want to try something different, most likely 4 cable with an amp. Tell me about your amp that you're going to use. I mean, you can use a quad 4 cable and it works quite well, I think. They would both work good, man. I mean, if you want to do 4 cable, it's almost like take your pick, which one, you know. The main thing with a quad is, of course, you can do your own amp captures if you want to, and that's not really a thing with an Axe-Fx. But there's so many amps in an Axe-Fx, you might not care, you know. So everything's so good on these things now. I know that's not the answer you want to hear, but it's true. It's like, do you want the Lexus or the Infiniti, or do you want the BMW or the Mercedes? They're both quality rides from A to B, right? Yeah. Let's see. I don't have many pedals currently using Helix's pedalboard and amp sim. How does the QC work as a pedalboard? Pretty good. I mean, I use it like that. I've done whole gigs with it, 4 cable method with my PT100. And then I used it on my clinic tour. Well, that wasn't even really a tour, but I did some clinics. Got to find some time to do more. But my Inspired by the Tone clinic was all PT15 being controlled by the quad Cortex, you know, MIDI switching it and everything, and channel switching it. And, should say I was using this sort of little MIDI box to turn to switch, because the PT15 doesn't have a MIDI in on it. But I've done actually MIDI out of the quad Cortex into a PT100 and did a whole set of music that way with it at a live gig. May do that again soon for something as well. Just got to see if, as I get into the fall here, I've got some things going on where I got to think about what I'm using and where my gear is. And at this point, gear's all over the place. And it's like, what am I going to use for this rig? And what am I going to use for this gig? How am I going to do this gig? And like, it's just complicated. And one of the things I might be doing is quad Cortex 4 cable method with the probably PT100. We'll see. So, yeah. Out in the fields, Uncle Ben did a great video. Are you into Ben Eller? Ben's my buddy. I know Ben. He's great, man. He makes great videos. He's terrific. Good cat, great player. Sounds like you have not spent much time in my home county of Orange. I've got my spots where I go. Like, I love to go to Laguna and, just find a place to stay and go be a beach bum for a few days. I love that. Sometimes I'll go hang out Balboa Island or something, but I'm like a beach guy. So like, I haven't hung out a lot in like I say, like the more inland Orange, like I don't even really like hanging Costa Mesa or something like that. I'm more go to like, like my few spots where I know I can have fun and I'll go there. But yeah, there's a lot of places I've never really hung out in Irvine. I've never really hung out in Orange or in, is that where Tustin is? That is where Tustin is, right? Or it's like I say, Fullerton. I mean, I went down there for dinner with a friend once and, just haven't spent a lot of time. So my wife says you have 80s Ozzy hair. It's almost getting there now, isn't it? Yeah. I know. Everybody used to say, oh, you look like Jeff Beck, and now it's turning into 80s Ozzy. It's true. Just haven't had a haircut for a couple months. Where do you go from here after a tour like that? Well, more of the same, man. We got to keep rocking. Keep on going. So, yeah. What is your favorite song to play with the group? Oh, man. It's really hard to pick a favorite. Joe's tunes are super fun. Steve's tunes are challenging. And then more recently have become like, not that they weren't fun, but like they were a little more like serious. Like, okay, I really need to concentrate. Like, and so and when you get through, you're like, whew, job well done. So it's not as much fun. Lately, it started to get a little more like, yeah, like I'm just digging into this and having a good time. Like my fingers are going to the right places without me thinking about it as much. I want to like knock on wood. I don't want to get too overconfident because they are really something else. But so always the feeling of accomplishment though when we played those. And then the covers that we did, in the encore are always really fun. The end of the set is always really fun because we get to the, we after doing a couple of their big hits, we end up on Crowd Chant, which is a Steve tune where he plays a riff and then the crowd sings it back. And he plays a riff and the crowd sings it back. It's almost like a football match. Like there's a lot of hey, that kind of stuff going on. And at that point, I just start running all over the stage and going to either side of the stage where I haven't been way over on Joe's side and stuff and getting people to interact. And it's just so fun at that point. Now I'm just having a great time. You're running around on stage with Joe and Steve and hamming it up a little bit and like having a really good time. So there's parts I like about the whole thing, Love of God, I'm basically playing the sitar arpeggio part that is relentless and never stops through the whole song. And it's a fairly long song. It's like 6 minutes long or something, I guess, So that's a challenge. But it was good, It's not like it's a fast arpeggio or anything, but you just have to keep playing it very steady. And it's a part. It's not, it goes a certain way. It doesn't deviate. And so there's a challenge to that. And I enjoy challenges like that sometimes, It's the opposite of improvising, but it's like, to deliver it and do it solidly and with, intent and good time and everything is fun. So your favorite food so far on this tour? The burger I had in France after our Paris show was out of this friggin' world. It was at this brasserie that was like, it was just a burger and fries. And I can't describe how, it was fancy cheese and like, it was just perfection, man. It was unbelievable. Probably the best burger I've ever eaten. So that came to mind. Unbelievable. Like I will go back to that place when I'm in Paris again, just to go to that brasserie and eat that burger for sure. Yeah. Sure, it's been asked, but have you had a chance to hang out with Steve and Joe after gigs? Oh yeah, lots. Great stories, great hangs. Long bus rides. We had a lot of long bus rides on this tour. So, and those guys stay up late and I stay up late. It's just sort of the way the tour went. But we'd get on the bus and lots of great conversations, and I heard a lot of stories and had great heart-to-hearts, good chats. I mean, it was epic, man. Like really good, for usually probably get on the bus quite late, and roll, and nobody would go to bed till 3:30 in the morning. So maybe we rolled late, so not till 1:30 or 2 or whatever, something like that. It just depended on where we were coming from, but you might hang and chat for a good solid hour, till people got tired. And generally just be the either Steve, Joe, or both, and then Marco and Kenny and myself, hanging down there and just talking about all kinds of stuff. It was amazing. So fun. I mean, they're just wonderful people. It was really fun. Did you ever use ADAT? Yeah, I used ADAT back in the day. First record I ever did with a band, the Surreal McCoys, back in '96. We had an ADAT chasing the 24 track, so we'd add extra stuff on the ADAT, and we used time code, track on the 24 track with SMPTE striped, and then the track on the ADAT, or maybe the ADAT had a separate SMPTE. I don't think so. But anyway, the ADAT would chase the 24 track, and we'd put things like tambourine on there, or like hand claps, or like any kind of extra stuff, percussion, background vocals that we didn't have enough tracks for. We ran out of room. And it'd be hilarious because when you go to mix and stuff, sometimes the ADAT wouldn't sync. SMPTE was a time code, and it allowed you to sync different devices together. For those that don't know, like you could lock up two 24 track machines, for instance, like two big 2-inch real 24 track machines. If you wanted to have 46 tracks, you could, instead of 48. Why do I say that? Well, because you had to use one track on each machine to put the SMPTE on, and then the two machines you'd have one master machine, and when you push play on that and it started, the SMPTE would roll, and it would send the SMPTE out to the other machine. The other machine would chase it and lock up, and so that's how we did that stuff back in the day. But anyway, sometimes the ADAT would just be off in outer space, like we're trying to mix, be like, where's the tambourine? And you look over the ADAT, and it was just like somewhere else, like out in outer space. Oh, fire the SMPTE off again, push stop, push start, and then it would chase it again. So, and I also used it. I remember Mark Goldenberg was kind enough to let us, the band I was in at the time, use his studio at home, and he had ADATs and a Mackie, which everybody got. Everybody got 2 ADATs and a Mackie, or 1 ADAT and a 1608, the little Mackie, where they had the big 32 channel Mackie, and they had 3 ADATs for 24 tracks, and they sounded like shit. They really did. 16-bit converters, 1644-1. Everything sounded crappy. The converters were just not up to speed in like 1993 or whenever those things came out. But it allowed you to do, that was the first Alanis record, was ADATs. The Failure record was ADATs, I think. The Fantastic Planet was ADATs, which sounds great because Ken Andrews did it, and he knew how to make it sound good. But I never had any luck with them. I thought the DA-88 sounded much better, and I did a lot of work on one of those, just one. Oh, no, that's not true. My roommate around 96, 97, I lived with this cat, Robert Ferris, crazy guy, very talented musician, and somewhat troubled. We had this house, and we had the whole living room was a studio. I almost forgot about this. We had a Soundcraft Ghost console, and we had 2 DA88s. So 16 tracks of DA88. Pretty cool. And Robert also had a nice U47, real tube 47. Might could be worth like 15 grand now or something, I'm sure. And 4 channels of 1073 Neves. It could get some pretty good sounds out of that stuff. And D88 just sounded better. I don't know what it was, the Tascam converters or something. They were just better, and the format was better. It was on these little hi8 style tapes that look like little. They were digital, but they look like hi8 videotapes, whereas the ADAT was VHS basically, and it was way more clunky and shitty. And but the ADAT was a little more popular format. It's kind of weird. It's almost like Beta versus VHS. It was like Beta was better. It just was more robust, and that's my memory of it. Everybody always used to say that, but it was some, for some, business or political reasons or whatever, the VHS won out and Beta went the way of the dinosaur. So anyway, once Pro Tools showed up, then it all went the way of the dinosaur, didn't it? In the early 2000s. Okay. Super chat here. How long I've been on for? About an hour. I'll do about another 15 or 20, I think, and then I'm going to split and just enjoy the rest of my little night off here before I get on a long ass, 15-hour travel day tomorrow to get back home. Matt's with the super chat and you got the guy from the 1984. You know who that dude is in your little avatar there? He was an exterminator company's mascot. That in '84, Noel Monk wrote about this in his book. The Van Halen, they put that mascot on all their tour T-shirts. He was this guy with a hammer, and because this is extermination company in LA, and I remember driving past it on the 101. You used to see it like somewhere around Silver Lake. You'd see their building with the guy, the same guy you got in your little, and it was this exterminator company, and they paid Van Halen a whole bunch of money, I think, to put their mascot on their tour T-shirts. We were always like, what is this guy? It didn't say the name of the company or anything. It was just the mascot, It's kind of cool. But that's why he's got to stomp out bugs, I think. It's kind of funny, right? But anyway, Matt's Tuba View. Just got a Friedman JEL 50, which I love. I got a text from Kenny Aronoff. 1 second. Okay. We'll join soon. Gonna go hang with Kenny in a few minutes. One last hang. Just got me a Friedman JEL 50, which I love. Any recommended settings? Main guitars and Ibanez HSH spec with bare knuckle aftermath and bridge and neck. JEL 50. I mean, it's kind of a BE. JEL, the Jake. Sorry. Yeah. Man, it's such a good sounding amp. Like, just start with everything on 5, tone control wise. That's what I would suggest. And I don't know. Beyond that, it's going to be very easy to dial in. I mean, you've basically got it's similar. I have the 20, and I think it's similar with a little more control, maybe. But yeah, that's my main recommendation. Is start with the gain on 5 or 6. And start with your tone controls all on 5, including the presence. Just put everything on 5. And then I bet between 4 and 6 on any of the tone controls, you'll find your sound and you'll find something where it'll channel switch nicely. That's my recommendation. You don't really need any extreme settings with those amps because Dave designs them to not need that, really, is my opinion. Usually on Friedman's, I'm not doing anything that radical with the tone controls. Same thing with my amp, actually. And PT100s, PT15. I've never got the tone controls certainly not below 3 and certainly not above 7. Yeah. Thanks again for that super chat. I appreciate it. I do. Diary of a Madman is my favorite Ozzy. Yeah, it's so cool, right? It's so good. So Sweet Leaf Rocks. Yeah, with the starts with the cough, right? Yeah. Diary and Ultimate Sin are my 2 favorites. No More Tears gets special 2 horns up. All great. you know, I mean, Jake was amazing. I love Jake's lead playing, you know, and his chords too. I mean, Bark of the Moon is like epically cool how he hides kind of this cool voicings in that hard rock progression. You know, that sounds simpler than it is. So, yeah. Randy had an approach to implementing classical music in a way that was different from Blackmore, Yngwie, and even EVH. Yeah, for sure. I mean, he was a super aficionado of classical, you know. I binged the whole Sabbath LP box, the first few Ozzy recordings. I live in Leesburg, Florida. Visited the site where we lost Randy shortly after Ozzy crossed over. Video short of my visit on my YouTube channel. Oh, that's cool too. Yeah, I mean, that's such a sad thing though. Randy's, geez, you know. Dio is another level of rock energy. Yeah, he was amazing. You know, it just got different. You know, best Thai food I ever had was in Copenhagen. I believe it. I do. How did you learn Japanese? Well, so skoshi nashimasu. So Duolingo. Yeah. But mainichi benkyou shite. I basically work about an hour every day. On Japanese every morning when I get up. And, you know, Duolingo is great. But you know, I don't know if I still get stuck like when I have to speak. So I'm still at the stage where I'm thinking through things and stuff like that. So, you know, I definitely need to spend more time there and just get forced into using it a little bit more, I think. But my vocabulary is getting better, and you know, I still read like a 3 or 4 year old, but I can read katakana and hiragana pretty well. I mean, pretty well, like not that well, but I can figure things out, which is really exciting, you know, when you can read, you know, go and look at a sign or something and, you know, and go through it. You're like, oh, that says karaoke and snacks. You know, there's one good thing to know about Japanese is that a lot of words are foreign words. So for instance, karaoke or snacks, you know, that's going to be snacks, you know, it's a lot of words, you know, personal computer, pasokon, smartphone, sumaho. You know, they're all sort of a lot of appropriated words. And once you figure that out, biru, you know, you start to recognize, because you might not, biru o kudasai, right? So beer, please, right? If you hear it go by fast and you didn't know that, you might not know somebody's asking for a beer, but once you start to recognize all the, they call them lend words, I think, you know, from other languages, then you start to hear a lot more and go, oh, geez, I think it's 10% of words, and a lot of it is English. So pretty helpful to know. But anyway, what's your opinion on how much power tubes contribute to tone? They do. Everything matters. How much? I mean, a good set of power tubes, if they're functioning properly, and it's probably not as much of a difference as a lot of other factors. Not as much as speakers, you know. A functioning, you know, tubes basically it's like it was explained a while ago. There was an internet debate about it, but it wasn't even really a debate. It does make sense that they don't really have how was it described? Like they don't really have a sound, but it's more that they just are down in certain frequencies and certain, but to me, it was like John did a test the other day. John Surrey was testing a bunch of different 12x7s, and he said, oh, I could test and see that these ones have more extended top end in this, you know, area, because, you know, I was like, yeah, so what's the difference? Like they don't really have a sound as much as they have more or less gain, I think, and maybe at certain frequency ranges, something like that. So it's like, if that happens, well, then it is a sound. And I don't know, there was somebody online saying power tubes don't make sound really, but if they amplify at a different, then they kind of do, right? Like, you know, at different frequencies. So I'm obviously not a tech or a scientist, but you know, standard stuff that I've noticed. Like when we did that big power tube test, me and Dave, maybe it was more apparent in person than it is on YouTube, but like for sure, I thought JJ's had the most sort of like, as far as new tubes go, rock, mid, aggressive sort of thing. And then some of the other tubes just sounded just a little bit more, bassy or less like upper mid aggressive, that kind of thing. But they were all good, like, and when you back to back, it's like, okay, there's not really that much difference as long as they're all working and functioning. So I remember, I do remember way back in the day, the Top Hat Cat, Brian Gerhard, showing me the difference between an EL34 when driven really hard and a Svetlana that everybody was talking about at the time as being the greatest new tube, the newish that was made. The original Svetlana, not the one where Mike Matthews bought the name, but old Svetlana EL34s. And he was like, I don't really like them. And I was like, why not? Everybody talks about them like they're great. And he goes, well, listen. And he found a matched pair that matched up to another pair of EH that were like about the same, and he put them both in the amp. And I listened. He goes, hear how they're more like, I don't know, like the breakup and the way like the EH is just more like cool. Like, I don't know how else to describe it, but it was like the Svetlana sounded more bland. And the EH had this cool kind of, maybe they were just like making less power or something, but it had this cool kind of hazy breakup on the top end that sounded more like exciting or something. I was like, oh yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. I mean, it just, personal bias. It's like, I always like the old Teslas. I always thought they sounded really cool. The East German RFT or Siemens tubes, they sounded really good to me. And I've got a bunch of pairs of those, at least even a couple quads. They're a little skinnier sounding. They're skinny tube actually, but they're a little more like mid-range, like Boston. They sort of sound like, for lack of a better, but we're splitting hairs here. I think we included a pair of those in the test when Dave and I did that EL34 test. But I really like those. I'd use those anytime, those RFTs. Yeah. All right. Gotta go soon. But a couple more questions here, and then I'll split in 5 at like 117 or something. Home monitor speakers playing guitar with a computer for a great price. What would be good? I like the low end, or not low end, but the Atoms that are T5s or something called the 5-inch ones. They're around, I don't know, I'm guessing they're $600 a pair or something like that. Cheaper than that, maybe. I like Yamahas. Dave's got a pair of Yamahas in his shop. They sound quite good to me. They're quite small. Maybe they're a 4-inch driver or 5-inch. Little black Yamaha studio monitors. They always kind of rock to me. But I like the inexpensive Atoms. They're kind of their lower end line. I used those for years to mix on. I have a pair at home still, actually. I'm using the Barefoots in my studio now, but the Footprint 3s, but the Atoms are I still have a pair of those at home. They sound really good to me. Having trouble finding where you demoed the Faustine Phantom attenuator. I might have pulled it because it's not available anymore. I don't remember. That was so long ago. It was over 10 years ago. So I might have, because there were some issues with, great unit, worked really well and everything, but I think there was some business, I'm just trying to remember exactly what happened, but some people had put deposits down and stuff, and then I think the business went under. There was some unhappiness surrounding that. And I think I probably did pull it down. Just like, well, I don't want to advertise this thing if it's not, that's my memory of it. So Cinvatech needs to be in a better box to handle all the switches. Great pedal, but the layout is ridiculous. Yeah, I just have kind of an issue with I think he's done great work, and I think it works really well, but I've done 3 videos of that pedal, I think, different incarnations of it. They all kind of look the same, and I don't really want to do another one just with some subtle circuit changes. That's just how I feel about it. I feel like if it was in a redesigned layout, I was like, you could put this in a single rack space and it would make a lot of sense, or in a pedal like the size of a Friedman, IRX or something like that, and maybe get into IRs and all that stuff, because it's basically a great Marshall in a box, and just that was my feel on that. But anyway, no need to tread over that ground again. I brought that one up already. Let's see. You guys are flying heads and pedal boards and using backline cabs? No. On this tour with no, everything is here is mine. And Joe's is his and Steve's is his. It's all cartage. So yeah. Stuff I will be doing later, coming up. There's going to be some backline going on, I think. Some rental stuff. But it's just every gig's different. Moving down through the chat. There's Norman. He says, thanks for taking time out. Thanks, man. Nice to be here. And let's see. Anything else? What's your review of Scumbag? Kept the paper cone models. Did they last? Paper cone. I have one cab with M75s in it. That was a cab I used back with Chris Cornell. It's a Port City cab, 412. I still have that cabinet. I may have a paper cone PVC 25 watt in 112 still. And I think I have a Scumbag in my little Bogner Cube M75, but it's probably the 65 watt version. I know I do have a 25 watt Scumbag in a Sur 112. That's all I've got. I don't have a 412 loaded with them, I don't think. Just a little 112. Yeah. Okay, there's a super chat there. Grab. How are you liking the 2 notes reload too? Great. How's the feel of the reamp power amps compared to the Fryette power station? I think it's really good. It's probably not capable of quite the volume that the Fryette is. And, that's going to be cab dependent too, because it's a solid state power amp. If you plug it into 4 ohm, you're going to get more power than you will with a 16 ohm. But with that said, if you've got you just need a reasonable amount of volume. When you start getting up loud, I start to hear it do something where it's not, it just sounds a little underpowered, but it's really loud at that point, and you might not need that headroom. So just know that when I backed it down, and this is apparent. I mean, I kind of even mentioned it, I think, in my review of it. I said when I backed it down and I got more reasonable, then it was very difficult to tell the difference between the amplifier or the amplifier loaded down and reamped. If I got the volume up on the amp and then I was pushing the reload really hard, I started to hear more difference between what was going on because it was probably just running out of clean power. Yeah. That's what I think about that. Eston says, great to have you back at regular time. Just kept missing you on previous alternate times. I should be here at the regular time next week, I think. I have a rehearsal next week, but I think it's not till evening, so it should be all good for Sunday Live. I'll go in and do Sunday Live, and then head to rehearsal after that with a bunch of time in the middle of the day. It'll be fine. Should be all good. So next week I'll see you at the usual time from my studio. Yeah. What determines what cities a band will tour? Lots of things. Venue availability, offers, working with promoters. I don't really understand the ins and outs of it, but markets that maybe you've already hit that year and you want to do different markets now, secondary market tour versus, main sort of cities kind of tours, and just, offers from, promoters and things. It's a whole thing that I don't really know that much about. I think it starts with probably, booking agent, band, management talking about like, what do we want to do? Well, we want to do a US tour. Well, what makes sense for this band at this? And then you start talking about, packages and, it might make sense for them to tour with this other band we've got. And they put a couple bands together and, maybe there's an overlapping audience, but they can sell tickets. This one can bring in, this many tickets and this one can bring in this many tickets. And then it makes sense. You can book into a bigger venue. All those, factors come into play. And then you're up against a whole bunch of different artists that all want to go on the road, probably all at the same time, and are booking venues and competing for venues and trying to route a tour, because it's like, well, we can be in Portland. And then there's this gig over here in Salt Lake City. And it's like, oh, that's really far. And it's the next day. And then it affects what kind of transport you've got. If you're in a van, well, we can do it, but we're going to be driving it's so complex. Like when you start to think about putting it together, it's pretty wild. So anyway, Richard says, see many of on Ben's show tonight. Many of, I don't know who many of is, but you guys know what you're talking about amongst yourselves. Go check out Ben's show tonight. There he is right there. I have Aussie Shredder Simon Hosford joining me tonight. Cool, man. Well, enjoy and have a good show. Guys, I'm going to split. I'm going to go visit Kenny Aronoff and have one more last hang with him. I might not get to see him that much more for a little bit, but hopefully down the road. And rock on, rockers, rock on, rockers. Everybody have a great week, and I'll see you next Sunday if you're available. Show up, I'll be there. Why not? What else is going on? It's Sunday. What, do you go to church or something? You know that David Lee Roth where he was like, who was it that he was like? Offered a beer to, and the person's like, no, man, I gotta, and Dave goes, what's the matter? You gotta go to school tomorrow. What's the matter? You got school tomorrow. Anyway, what's the matter? You got school on Sunday morning? Go to church or something? Come on, hang out on Sunday Live, man. All right, I'll shut up now. Have a great week. Thanks for being here. Thanks for your super chats, and goodbye. Wait, did it go? No. End stream. Why did they make you push it twice?